Good morning. Welcome to morning meditation. I'm on my own this morning, so just need to check to see if this is working here on the YouTube. So looks like I'm getting there. We'll see how the volume is. All right. It's working. That is great. Feast of Our Lady of Loreto today. And this is almost something totally different. This is a fairly new article written in December of 2018. So Catholic News Agency wrote this, woman named Courtney Mayers. And the church gives us this day as an optional memorial. And we've been doing Mary all week. We'll include it with Juan Diego, and we'll get Our Lady Guadalupe on Sunday the 12th. Of course, Gaudete Sunday, Joy Sunday will overrank that. But since we're on a roll, I'm just gonna read you this article about Our Lady of Loreto, and we'll go with this. What do Galileo, Mozart, Descartes, Cervantes, and Saint Therese of Lisieux have in common? They all traveled hundreds of miles to step inside the Virgin Mary's house, which is preserved inside a basilica in the small Italian town of Loreto. Catholic pilgrims have flocked to the Holy House since the 14th century to stand inside the walls where tradition holds the Virgin Mary was born, raised, and greeted by the angel Gabriel. In other words, if it is actually the house of Nazareth, it is where the Word became flesh at the Annunciation, a point on which the history of humanity turned. There is an oft-repeated story that angels carried the Holy House from Palestine to Italy. While modern listeners may doubt the legend's veracity, historic documents have vindicated the beliefs of pious pilgrims over the century with a twist. And she says, with an ironic twist. Tradition holds that the Holy House arrived in Loreto on December 10th, 1294. And so thus the feast day of December 10th. And so whatever that makes it here, 800 and some years, 827 years ago. After a miraculous rescue, so it arrives in Loreto, December 12, 1294, after a miraculous rescue from the Holy Land as the Crusaders were driven out of Palestine at the end of the 13th century. In 1900, the Pope's physician discovered documents in the Vatican archive stating that in the 13th century, a noble Byzantine family, the Angeli family, rescued materials from Our Lady's house. These are in quotes, materials from Our Lady's house from the Turkish invaders, and then had them transported to Italy for the building of a shrine. The name Angeli means angels in both Greek and Latin. So the line that angels brought them to Loreto, the Angeli family, I don't know. That's the ironic twist. Super interesting. Further historic diplomatic correspondence not published until 1985 discussed the holy stones taken away from the house of Our Lady, Mother of God, in the fall of 1294. Now, holy stones were included in the dowry of Ithamar Angeli for her marriage to Philip II, the son of King Charles II of Naples. So, the dowry was this thing, the wife going to need support, and so you want to support her, and so you give the dowry, and part of the dowry was, quote unquote, holy stones. So clearly the Angeli family had some holy stones floating around. Now, A coin minted by a member of the Angeli family was found in the foundation of the house in Loreto. In Italy, coins were often inserted into a building's foundation to indicate who was responsible for its constructions. Excavation in both Nazareth and Loreto found similar materials at both sites. The stones that make up the lower part of the walls of the Holy House in Loreto appear to have been finished with a technique particular to the Nabateans, which was also widespread in Palestine. There are inscriptions in syncopated Greek characters with contiguous Hebrew letter that read, O Jesus Christ, Son of God, written in the same style inscribed in the grotto in Nazareth. Okay, how about that? That's kind of cool. All right. Archaeologists also confirm a tradition of Loreto that 3rd century Christians had transformed Mary's house in Nazareth into a place of worship by building a synagogue-style church around the house. We have a written line that a 7th century bishop who traveled to Nazareth noted a church built at the house where the Annunciation took place. Okay, so this is tracing it back to, okay, is it possible that Mary's house was standing in 1294 in Nazareth? Well, there's an ancient tradition of a 3rd century church attested to by a 7th century visit that someone wrote about. And so is it possible that it lasted another 500 years? It certainly is. Because that area of the world is so different from our area of the world. You know, if a building's up 100 years around here, well, it's kind of old. We can tear it down. That is not the tradition in a place like the Holy Land or in Europe, where old stuff is patched up. You don't just tear it down and rebuild. Okay. So if it was there, there's a tradition, and then there's a story of a 7th century. So it adds weight to at least some of the stones there, or part of the stones there, were actually from the place of the Annunciation. Okay, what else do we got here? St. Francis de Sales. From St. Francis de Sales to St. Louis de Montfort, many saints visited the Holy House of Loreto over the centuries. Charlie Borromeo, I was talking about him last night. Pilgrimage there in 1566, 72, 79, and 83. St. John Paul II called the Holy House of Loreto the foremost shrine of international import dedicated to the Blessed Virgin Mary. So he called it this in 1993. And of course, we know his great love for Fatima. So this is pretty amazing stuff. The victory over the Turks at Lepanto was attributed to the Virgin of Loreto by St. Pius V. And it doesn't give me the year of that. But it said that the general and the head of Austria pilgrimaged to this shrine after the victory. After the Pope claimed the victory was because of Our Lady of Loreto, the leaders of the forces who helped defeat the Turks pilgrimaged to the shrine. Christopher Columbus made a vow to the Madonna of Loreto in 1493 when he and his crew were caught in a storm during their return journey from the Americas. He later sent a sailor on Loreto on pilgrimage of thanksgiving on behalf of the entire crew. Queen Christina of Sweden offered her royal crown and scepter to the Virgin Mary in 1655 after her conversion from the Lutheran faith to Catholicism. Check this one out. Napoleon plundered the shrine. Of course, he was trying to feed an army, right? And its treasury on February 13th, 1797, taking with him precious jewels and other gifts that had been offered to the Virgin Mary by the European aristocrats like Queen Christina of Sweden. The object of real value in the eyes of the pilgrims, though, the Holy House of Mary, was left unharmed. In 1995, John Paul II called the Holy House of Loreto the house of all God's adopted children. The threads of the history of the whole humankind are tied anew in that house. It is the shrine of the house of Nazareth, to which the church that is in Italy is tied by providence, that the latter rediscovers a quickening reminder of the mystery of the Incarnation, thanks to which each one is called to the dignity as children of God. Okay, if you want to read this article by CNA, the title seems to be, Did Angels Really Carry the Holy House of Mary to Loreto, Italy? And then she says the answer is the ironic twist. It's December 10th, 2018, and Courtney Mayers is the author of that. Okay, that's just sort of one of those things that out there, if you find yourself in Italy someday with a chance to go to Loreto, do not pass up the opportunity. All right, I had dug out a couple more things today. Oh, this gospel, which when I first started doing this, of course, we get this gospel every year, unless it falls on a Sunday. No, it can't fall on a Sunday because it's given to this day, the Friday of the second week of Advent. It's given to this particular day. And so we get this reading, and we get it every year. And in my first few years, I really didn't understand this passage. And now I kind of really enjoy it. To what shall I compare this generation? This is Jesus speaking. This generation is like children who sit in the marketplace and call to one another. We played the flute for you, but you did not dance. We sang a dirge for you, but you did not mourn. Okay, this seemingly is some sort of proverb of the time of Jesus. We sang, we played the flute for you, but did not dance. This is, hey, we brought song of joy, and it didn't make you happy. We played a dirge for you. It did not make you sad. Don't you have a heart? John came neither eating, and so, it's right. Who can satisfy you? Who can satisfy you? John came neither eating nor drinking, and they said he is possessed by a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking and said, look, he is a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. Interesting. This is what some thought of Jesus when he was on earth. And so, interestingly, to hold this tension, both holy, right? Son of God, eating and drinking, friend of tax collectors and sinners. Wisdom is vindicated by her works. And so we get this wisdom being vindicated by her works. All right. This passage, we sang you a happy song and you did not sing or dance. We sang you a sad song and you did not mourn or weep. It reminded me of the lines from Romans. And we hear this line kind of regular, but I wanted to. This is in Romans 12, and Paul is just giving a list almost of his own proverbs. And, we tend not to, proverbs aren't necessarily meant to just be pounded through like reading a story. You kind of hang out with each one. But I'm going to go through 15 through 21, just so you get a feel for this, because we don't really hear it as a contiguous reading where we just read through it, because it's not really set up that well for that purpose. But take a listen. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. This is one that we hear somewhat regularly. Maybe you've heard it. Have the same regard for one another. Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly. Do not be wise in your own estimation. So like I said, these are all, they're not super connected. They almost stand on their own. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be concerned for what is noble in the sight of all. If possible on your part, live at peace with all. Beloved, do not look for revenge, but leave room for the wrath of God. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. Rather, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. For by so doing, you will weep burning coals upon his head. We're kind of familiar with that line. In Matthew's Gospel, Jesus gives well, let me read it. It might be better if I read it. I'm such a bad paraphraser. I say to you, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. But this is also quoting a proverb. And let me read that to you if I can get it. My web page went a little funky on me here. So the quote from Proverbs, if your enemies are hungry, give them food to eat. If thirsty, give them something to drink. So Paul is quoting directly from Proverbs there. Do not be conquered by evil, but conquer evil with good. So these are Paul's kind of instructions about how to live, just little pithy statements that aren't, it's just how do we think about things. And so that first one, rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. Not to be like those in the gospel that are impossible to make happy, right? We sang you a song, you didn't dance, you didn't sing. We sang you a sad song, you didn't weep, you didn't mourn. You're untouchable. Nothing makes you happy. Try not to be one of those. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. All right. Great to have you with us as we wrap up this second week of Advent. Reconciliation service this Sunday at St. Anthony's. 1 o'clock at St. Anthony's. And so we will see you there if that works for you. Otherwise, third Sunday in Advent. We wear pink or rose. Father Jeremy Plouffe sent me a little text a couple years ago on the third Sunday and said, Jesus didn't pink, he rose. And so we try for rose this weekend. All right. But it's the sign of joy. It's Gaudete. It's Joy Sunday. And so I heard at Newman last week, Father Rolfus kicked it off early with Joy Sunday on the second Sunday of Advent. So